So I think that could be an awesome thing to have.
I'll tell you why that's liberating to me and encouraging to me. Because, of course, I'm always assessing ways that we can strengthen our ministry, which is the reason for the question. And, I was of the mindset, when I was thinking about staffing and different things like that, going forward, I'm like, with the way things are happening, particularly now, and we'll talk about how COVID has maybe impacted this negatively or positively. I'm thinking like going forward, we're going to have some type of, counselor or somebody on staff that, can help us better serve or meet the need. But the thought of just having something like a support group, that never even, crossed my mind. So that's helpful in that regard. Just having a place where people can, talk that out, get that addressed. And like you said, maybe just having someone to ensure that, to facilitate it, or if something more is needed, give some instruction or some direction that way. That's helpful. Yeah. That's helpful. Yeah, and I hope, any other pastors or ministers or whoever that's watching, I've talked to quite a few of you, and I know that's been in some of the conversations that we've had, and that's helpful. Support groups are needed. Yeah. Support groups are needed. So let's talk about the stigmas. When mental health comes up, there's this stigma that's attached to it, even in some of the language, which I think for a lot of people, it goes unaddressed for them, or they know something is wrong or something is out of balance, but they refuse to get it addressed because they don't want that label. They don't want that stigma attached to them, and those stigmas are in the culture as well as in the church. But I think this is important because we've witnessed over the past several years there's been a great increase that we've seen, and I'm sure it's been going on for a long time, but with the advent of social media and different things like that, again, you just see it more and more often. There's been an increase in, the rise of pastors committing suicide, people of faith committing suicide. In fact, it was a pastor who was one of the leading advocates for mental health last year committed suicide. And we've seen this just like over and over again. What needs to happen? What needs to happen in order for us, and I'm talking about in the church now, what needs to happen in the church for us to create, and probably even in the culture too, I won't just limit it to the church, for us to create a more grace-filled, transparent environment where we can communicate more about mental health and remove the shame of it?
That's a good one, because you hit it on the nail. There's a stigma there. A lot of times when there's a mental illness, or if you're seeking out counseling or therapy, it's seen as you're weak or you're afraid, yeah, or you're less than, yeah, or some people go as far as crazy, they're associated right with. And so, people talk about it less. Nothing right is done, and it just continues to cycle and cycle. Right. And so I think a lot of times what needs to happen is just, again, awareness and education and just understanding what's mental health and where it comes from. Yeah. Because I think then when people understand mental health more, that shame can go away. They can see that this is a household thing, that everyone at any given point can experience a shift in their mental health. Yeah. And it doesn't have to go so long that it becomes a mental illness to where you're just spiraled out of control and you're at a loss then and you're like, what do I do? Yeah. And I think a lot of times when people come in, we talk about, the numbers. You mentioned it earlier, what statistics will tell us. And it's like, if I read something the other day, said something along the lines of, if 20% of African Americans were diagnosed with mental health, half of them would seek the help they